This is the art of startup war. And my name is Brian McMahon, your host and sensei. Here is what we know. 98% of startups will fail every single day, and mostly due to reasons outside your control. The Expert Dojo Startup Accelerator, we look to even up the playing field by sitting down with the greatest minds in startup investment, right here in our studio in Silicon Beach, where we look to shine a light on your path to success. Now, our guests each week have invested millions of dollars into startups and are the most respected investors in the world. Now, they share all they know with you, the listener. So join us on Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, starting off your week winning the war against startup failure. It's Tuesday morning, it's 10 o'clock, it's Brian here, it's Expert Dojo, it's the Art of Startup War, and again I'm talking to, I don't know whether to say, an incredible investor here in Silicon Beach, a brilliant exit entrepreneur in Silicon Beach, or an amazing drinker in Silicon Beach. Because I met this man, when was it, like a couple of weeks ago? It was fun, mate. It was fun. I had my ball buster Chelsea there. She was just closing out her round. We got down the bungalow and we had a really good conversation. And then a Polish man and an Irish man got together in a random place in Silicon Beach and we had a bunch of beers. I was going to go deeper, but you know what? I don't know why I was going to go deeper. I'm an Irish guy. The basis of all our relationships is alcohol. And mate, tell us your story. I love everything. I mean, with Google, with the sale of your company, with how you did it, with where you came from. Just take us deep.
So I came to this country about 23 years ago from Poland. Went to school, graduated. Always wanted to do something interesting, something on my own, something smaller. Had tons of opportunities which I walked away from. I attempted to do a bunch of things that failed. And then finally, after Amazon, AWS, got the opportunity. It's either now or never. Jump in, try to do something, and that worked. So my entire life career been doing enterprise software. So went into enterprise software.
Yeah.
And I figure, this cloud thing might actually work, so it could be a good idea to
I don't
invest.
know. I don't know if it's going to make it.
Yeah, well, who knows? It might change, but it did work. So it was great. Building the business in a new space.
And you were there right at the start.
Right at the start.
Jeff. The leadership team. You were part of the decisions there. Like that's a really exciting time. Like to take a company which today is worth squillions of billions of dollars, like one of the most valuable companies in the world, and you were there when it was just a pipsqueak of an idea.
I must say I wasn't really sure when I started that Amazon's going to figure out how to do cloud. But they were very convincing. So I spent a few years there and it was absolutely great experience.
Amazing. And then, so take us after that. You go in there, you learn the trade, you see how an entrepreneur takes it from nothing all the way up to almost something. Even at that stage, it was still kind of on its way, but you could see how it was growing. What convinced you to start something yourself?
I actually convinced a friend of mine to go and start something. He was at a different company, but working with AWS. So I pushed him to do that. And then he convinced me to come and join him. So,
how hard was that decision? Because it is difficult, right? Because you're in AWS, you're making a ton of cash, you're hanging around with all the top people, you've got nice expenses. Now you're a startup, you're dirt poor. You have an idea, you're so screwed.
Yeah, I don't even know. The money factor is naturally important, but
only to our wives.
Yeah, well, and kids, right?
Yeah.
But it's really about, trying to figure out how it's all going to work in terms of the dynamics in the family of the kids. Like, I think that's a bigger question than can you go and make money? Yeah, sure, you can always figure something out, right, if you're resourceful.
Yeah.
So that was a little challenging, trying to figure out how to make this work. Just had a kid, she's younger, is how much time I can spend with her. So, but that's
by the way, you bring up a really, really good point. Entrepreneurship is all-consuming. It's 16, 17 hours a day. And even when you're sleeping, you're still preparing for hour one when you start again the next day. If you're on your own, you're 20, 21, 22, who cares? Like, you're going to
Right.
see your mom, your dad in a couple of years' time. It's totally cool. But entrepreneurs today don't look like 21-year-olds in many of the cases. They're 30, 35, 40, 50, 55-year-olds who've got families around them. And I think this is a caution just to everyone. I made a rule for myself. I got a 12-year-old. We both got kids around the same age. But I made this rule when he was about 7 or 8, which is I'm always going to bring him to school in the morning, and I'm always going to pick him up after school. And I may suck at other times and I may get called away to conferences, but if I build my routine around that, then I always guarantee that I'll have quality time, at least with my little guy.
That's a very good point. And some of the people that work for me figured it out. They knew exactly when I'm commuting to pick up my daughter, so they would call Dad. But yes, that's part of it. And it worked much better. Like you said, if you work 17 hours, that's fine when she's sleeping. But you always find some time. So
Yeah, I
that's
like
important.
that. So when did you know it was going to be a success?
You know what? You always
Or
want.
how long did you know it was going to be a failure before you knew it was going to be a success?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure this out. This exact moment. You know how it is. You're exposed to all the ups and downs, and you see this iceberg you're heading towards, and you try to figure out how to avoid it. So at some point when you sign up large number of customers and you got the large organizations coming to you and validating your story, at that point it's all execution, right? So you can blame yourself for it.
So when did you know it was going to be a success?
There's a lot of validation from the customer, right? You start getting customers, they're interested, you're signing up a larger volume of them, and then the conversations expand, right? We all know it's not always the easiest thing to raise money, being a little older, competing with the 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
And
how much did you? Tell me about that raising process if you can as well. How hard it
many
was.
meetings for sure. All kinds of different dynamic. There are different VCs. There are some VCs that care about the spreadsheet. There are some VCs that care about technology, and there are some that just like to argue with you, and that's fine too.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
You learn something in the process.
Yeah.
But being a little older than the average entrepreneur in the waiting room, it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It gets interesting. So powering through it, making sure that people understand what you can bring to the table. That's been an interesting process. Very much a lot of learning, which I enjoyed. But at some point, you just want to get some cash and start building a company. So.
And how did you convince them in the end? If you were giving the value proposition and you were bringing yourself all the way back to that time when you were just in front of the VCs, what do you say? Pretend it's a mirror and you're talking to a VC right now.
Starting
Like, how do you
or
convince
the
them?
end of the process, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about validation, ability for you to build a company, and I think that's really what they're going to invest in, and that's what we did.
But they have to take a leap of faith at the beginning, right? Because they have you're building it, you're sitting there, you're telling them what you're going to do, but how do you convince them with the greatest degree of certainty that you're not going to lose all their money?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think at a certain point, it's the volume. And I'm talking about an average startup, right? Because if you're the hottest thing on the street, I mean, that's not your problem. But for an average entrepreneur coming in, it's really finding the person that understands your story. I mean, at the end of the day, that's it, right? And we've been able to get to the people that would listen, understand what kind of problem we're trying to solve, that, software is going that direction. It makes sense. We have the validation, we have the customers, and how we can work with them to really scale the company.
Yeah, and look, you make a great point. There's no point in trying to convince everyone, right? Everyone is not going to get it. Different people have got different agendas. Some people are trying to get money back straight away. But there is one person, either one of two things happens. Either one, you got a sucky product, nobody's going to invest in, it's the wrong time, you're the
Right.
wrong entrepreneur, it's the wrong everything.
Well, you got to
right?
start thinking about all the questions,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
of
it's a
course.
possibility that it's me, right? That it's my product that's wrong. But assuming that's not the case, and assuming there is a degree of potential for this to be something amazing, then there is one person out there who understands it, they get it, their liquidity is in the right place at the right time, and they're able to make a compelling decision. We just need to make sure that we're smart in trying to find that person, and then we stay on it.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. And, you can get frustrated after 10, 20 meetings, but, maybe you're just not talking to the right people.
Oh, 10, 20. I remember Chelsea, I think she'd seen 200 VCs, and then within 1 week, all of the money rolled in, oversubscribed by like $1 million within 1 week. But she was an overnight success after 11 and a half months of trying. Yeah,
that's what people see, right? They don't see the hard working behind the scenes.
Yeah, the tears.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of different things.
Yeah. And have you changed now since becoming an investor? I want to get back to your exit in a second, but since becoming an investor, in your view on startups, so for example, if you had seen you walking in on that first day to do the pitch to get the money for your company, would you have given it?
On the first day? No. Hell no.
Why not?
I mean, you learn so much, right? Positioning the product.
I like the hell no.
Not even the product, right? It's really, I think at least 50% of the investors really care about you and the team. The team could change, right? But the funders, that's important. And positioning the funding team, positioning yourself in the right way. On the first day, I think that was the biggest mistake. Like it's focusing on the wrong things.
So when would you have given you money?
Somewhere in the middle of that, yeah, couple months in, understanding the dynamics, listening to feedback, adjusting the positioning, and even thinking about the business in a little different way, right? There's always multiple different things we want to focus on.
Yeah, and I love that point as well. Like sometimes we look at investment like a first date on Tinder. It's a swipe right or a swipe no, and that's not the case. This is a process. It's a relationship. You meet with someone, you talk to them about a value proposition, and then they get to know you. And that getting to know you means you're married. Like if you lose, I lose. I lose all my money. Or the investor loses all their money. So we have to allow for the fact that even something that seems like an absolute no on Monday at the beginning of January can absolutely be a yes in March or April the same year.
Yes, but I think there's even more important piece, right? Like you mentioned earlier, you start asking questions, is there a product fit, or maybe not, or maybe it's me. At some point, you really have to take a step back and reevaluate the options. Maybe the product makes no sense, right? There are always options. There are always options to adjust.
So depressing.
But it is.
True,
but you cannot be pushing against the wall, right? You got 50 people telling you this is just completely stupid. And no, you're not hearing this and not seeing the point. So, yeah.
There comes a time where you just got to move on.
Yep.
I've had companies like that before. Yeah, it's true. So then talk to me about the exit. What happened? Did you get a phone call?
We got a couple phone calls from some organizations that were super interested, and that was the time when cloud really started disrupting their businesses, right? Some of the traditional players in the market, and we try to figure out what is the best for the employees, for us, for the company in general, then we had to go and figure out how we want to position, how we want to place, and who really is going to give us the best opportunity to kind of stay where we are and grow the business and be successful.
Felt good though, right?
Felt good.
Did you get
There's
that
no
first
question.
phone call? Did they give you a number, or did you say, hey, well, what are you thinking? No. What are you thinking?
I think we're in a room somewhere having a conversation, and that came up like kind of shy way of maybe you want to do this, and
well, what's your maybe look like?
How big is that maybe? But yeah, that was a good conversation, and it was very challenging as well. We were somewhere, I don't know, 10 months into, after raising the first round and start thinking about, running out of money and other challenges and growing the team. So we start talking to a number of VCs about, Series A, and amazingly, a lot of them start seeing what we bring to the table, how we could actually help their portfolio companies as well compete in this consumption, new economy around cloud. So there was a lot of interest there. And, on the other hand, we had to start thinking about other options. And it's more complex than one would think from the beginning, right?
Oh, it's terrifying, right? Because you're in the room and you're around the table, and these people have no emotional bind to any of this conversation. It's
That's right.
so what about 100 million? What about 20 million? What about 72 million? I don't know. Should we just get lunch first and then we decide? But you're over the other side of the table as the entrepreneur who this is everything to.
Yeah.
Because wherever this conversation, but at the same time, you have to look like you're the same as these guys. I don't know, maybe we should have lunch at 2:00. But inside, you're shitting yourself, right?
Well, and on top of that, you don't really know the corp dev people, so you don't know which negotiating book they read and how they approaching you.
And if they're even for real, I
Right.
love it. It's a great point.
Right.
Have you had any, since you've done that, and congratulations on that, by the
Thank
way,
you.
because, by the way, that's the dream, right? That's what we want to do. We want to be able to start a business, create value proposition, a real product fit where there's value for the customer, and then to be able to exit out. And for me, like I see Jason Calacanis, who's here locally, who I see here all the time, and he's exited for $30 million. For me, it's the greatest success in the world.
Yeah.
Anyone who exits for over $20 million is set for life as long as they're not stupid. And as long as they did it early enough at the beginning of their life. Now, look, we can all waste the money afterwards, but if we plan it out, we can do it. So, and then after that, it's how do I stay engaged in the ecosystem, either by starting more businesses or by investing in companies as well. You decided to start investing in companies, right?
Yeah. So of course, advising and investing, it's always interesting. I'm one of the biggest things that we want to focus on is like I want to stay here, right? I just moved to LA. I kind of see this environment developing. It's a smaller ecosystem. It's interesting. So I wanted to stay here and really find some of the interesting companies around enterprise software. We don't really have that many of them still here.
Yeah, we're still babies in the space, yeah.
So, that's an interesting space.
Because people, they used to leave before, right? It's only recently that our engineers have started staying down in LA.
Right.
Before, quite rightly, there wasn't the money down here, nor was the infrastructure, so they would go to San Fran or they go to New York.
All the connections are there,
Yeah.
right? But then on the other side, also kind of balancing that with getting into some of the consumer plays that I really don't have experience with firsthand. So we got a lot of that here. So that's an interesting piece as well. Get in and start going this.
And have you had any tough investment moments?
Oh, for every day, yeah.
Have you had any really tough investment moments?
Well, define really tough.
The kind of ones that they just a little bead of sweat just gets onto your forehead. Let's pretend you're not in the fridge in the Expert Dojo podcast and another bead of sweat goes in your forehead and you're really worried about. Like maybe an investment moment where there's a really good lesson that our entrepreneurs can take from it, either by dealing with you as an investor or somebody else as an investor.
I wouldn't say really tough. I mean, you can always write off some money, right? That's not a big deal. And like you said, unless you're stupid and you put all your money on one company, that doesn't make it. But I mean, that's a rare case
not
here.
Too smart, yeah.
That's not too smart.
Yeah.
So not really, but the types of people that come in and they feel they can do everything and not really listening. I guess the biggest learning thing for me was missing that feedback from some of the people. They just if you don't get it through, you don't get it through, right? And then things fold and they forget the conversation. But I mean, everybody does that, right?
It's true, actually, because there are so many, especially here, we're so privileged. There are so many great entrepreneurs who've made it through that have such a phenomenal amount of lessons. And sometimes earlier stage entrepreneurs are so focused and driven on just raising investment that they forget this greater picture around them, which is, man, if I could just take in all this, if I could even just take in 2% of this information, then I'm going to get to where forget investment. I'm going to get to where I want to go to with my company so much faster.
Yeah, those conversations are happening on a weekly basis, definitely. People just don't understand the effort and the preparation it takes to go and raise money. I mean, significant amount, million plus, right? You can go do friends and family, get a couple $100,000 here and there, but that's not going to make you successful, right? Yeah. So getting that through to people is been really hard sometimes.
Yeah. And how do you do? So do you see, when you look at entrepreneurs who come to you for advice, do you see specific traits that you think this person has a better chance of being successful?
Definitely the doer type, right? Not overly confident, because of course you're gonna fail from that
Yeah.
perspective. That's number one. And second piece is really coachable, someone that listens. If you come in and you know your idea and this is the most awesome idea on the face of this planet, and I'm gonna go and kill it, and just that's usually not the case, right?
Yeah.
In very few situations the case.
Yeah, like zero. I'm holding up a zero right now.
Yeah.
It's very hard because our idea is never fully formed at the beginning. We're
Right.
creating something that's never existed before. So for us to be in a place to actually, we're a tiny percentage of actually getting
Well,
it
you know,
through.
that's one of the mistakes, right? You talk to your friends and family and they're all happy and that's great idea. I
Yeah.
will buy it from you. And then you go and do it, right? It's like, all right, that's pretty much the audience. You missed to talk to other people.
My mom and all her
Yeah,
friends.
my mom definitely is getting this. Yeah.
She's like, you were so smart. I always knew when you went to school, you were going to be the smartest one in the class.
Yeah.
And look at you now.
And the entire
Yeah.
family needs cloud management tools now. So.
Yeah, and then the family needs therapy 2 years later after all the money's been lost. Any other skills in a startup? But do or die, I get that's there. Do you find if somebody's, let's talk technology for a second. Do you think if somebody's a technology focused person or a business development focused person, is there a benefit or a non-benefit, or does it make any difference?
To me, the ideal equation is to have two co-founders, one business, one tech.
Right,
Like
okay.
there's no question.
Yeah, and
right?
that goes, by the way, that goes all the way through Silicon
Of course,
Valley, right? If
of
they
course.
going as, and this is for all of those founders out there who are sole founders, like myself. Like I'm a sole founder, I'm a biz dev guy, I'm through and through biz dev. So for people like us, we need to do something which is tremendously important. We need to do two things. Number one, we need to fill our skill gaps. So it may not be, in my case, we don't need a huge technological basis here, but we can't have a stupid one either, right? So we need to make sure we
You need to understand that architecture, technology.
got to have an
basis.
architecture
Yeah,
person in here, right in place. So that's a skill gap that we had before. Now, I'm also terrible at logistics. Like I'll wake up in the morning and I'll work out how to sell potatoes to a chip van. But I won't wake up in the morning and wonder if I left the lights on. So a logistical skill gap exists. So you don't need necessarily co-founders in my case, because we never needed to raise a lot of money, but you do need to have very skilled people around you to fill those gaps, right? And then to your point, if you're then going for on a technological platform and you're going to Silicon Valley, you need to raise a lot of money, you need to have a good, strong team around you
No question.
who've got equity
No
in the
question.
game, right?
And you bring up a really good point here. Like one of the first hires for me is a super strong operations person. Understanding the system, setting up processes, preparing for scale.
I hate that stuff.
I do too. I mean, I would never do that.
Yeah.
There are people that are really good at it, and that's great. I love to hire them.
I want people to make me feel stupid, like really stupid. It's like, oh, you don't have that?
Yeah, yeah.
like-
Could I do it? I think so, but I don't want to try. I really
Yeah,
don't.
it's not what I'm brilliant at.
Yeah,
And what I'm brilliant at, and when we look at us as startups and when we're breaking through at different levels, we have to look at like what are the skills that are required to actually do that. Now, if my biz development skills are really good and I know that 60% of the success of the company are biz dev, then if I take my time off that to do operations,
That's right.
I'm doing the company a disservice.
And at the same point, you know, if you're the founder, you will be spending a lot of time raising money. There's no question, right? You got maybe a breather of a month or two after you raise a round and, back in the grind, right?
Yeah.
So you need to have the crew that runs the business, runs the operations, delivers, make sure the customers are happy. Most important thing.
I love that. Okay, quick fire round.
Sure.
Biggest success ever, no kids.
I think the kid is really it for me, but
Can't. It's not allowed.
No, I'm kidding.
We have a
I'm not
beep.
kidding, really. But I thought about it for a while. At some point, and with I hate to bring this up, but I will. The political situation and things like that here. When I came to this country, I've never been here. I pretty much knew the country from the movies. And when I came here, it was completely different than what Hollywood sold me on. But really coming here and finding, taking advantage of what's available to you and being able to, land at the airport without really knowing the language. I still kind of challenge with that. But, find the resources, find the people, build a network, and be able to really build a good life for yourself, right?
I love
And
that.
I'm saying this because
Yeah.
when I think about it now, there's no way in hell I would do it right now.
Yeah.
It's like with the complexities and everything else that you have to go through. It's like, how people do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool actually, because sometimes it's the really tiny little things that we skip over, but actually they make everything else happen.
Yeah.
It's that one decision to do one thing that a lot of the people around the world don't take that decision. And then, oh, my life is so tough. Oh, it's really bad. Oh, I never got the same opportunities that you got, but you didn't make that one step to actually do it yourself. I love that. Best advice you've ever received?
Uh,
Other than don't go into a fridge to do a podcast?
Yeah, no, that worked well. I think it was always take a step back and think twice about what you're about to do.
Okay.
I've not always been really good at it.
That's not very Polish and it's not very Irish.
It's not. It's
No.
definitely not.
Take a step
But especially when it's not necessarily a startup, but your company, whatever you do, and you're responsible for a number of people, those decisions are carry a lot of weight. So make sure that you're sure what you want to do and you accept the responsibilities for that.
Yeah,
So,
you don't have to press that send button in the evening. You can wait till the next morning and just
yeah,
put it in your
after we have a
draft.
couple drinks at the bungalow.
and
I'm with
you
you.
can come back. Favorite new gadget?
It's not really a gadget, but Porsche finally got their racing up working, and it's kind of cool to see all the data coming out
cool.
of. Yeah, so I've been playing with that lately.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm
I
in
haven't
search
seen
of a
that.
gadget. I need a good camera because some of them are just not the right.
Well, you should just try a phone because they're no longer phones now. They just run out of battery in 5 seconds. They're cameras.
Yes, but like stabilization and things.
No, I
issues.
know.
I've been trying
the world
to
has
figure
gone
this out.
mad. Like the phones are cameras, the cameras are something else. One thing I do want to know: entrepreneur you admire cannot be Jeff.
Oh, it's gotta be Jeff.
Can't be Jeff.
Gotta
Jeff
be
doesn't
Jeff.
count. It's too easy. It's
No.
like kids for your like best success. No.
All right, so I start quickly with Jeff, and I say why, and then I'll think about something else. I really, when I started at AWS, Amazon back in the day, Jeff was not, the buffed up rock star that he is today.
Yeah, sure. He's pretty introvert.
Yes, and not too many people really understood how Jeff approaches business and how he can step into anything. And I learned that, and then I learned some of the things, from operations perspective. That's the first thing, how you structure the business to scale. So it's absolutely amazing, right? What Jeff does with the businesses and steps into the opportunity, grows it, and owns the market.
Yeah.
Um,
We can keep with Jeff because actually
Yeah.
I do. I highly respect that as well. And what he's done over there is amazing, and how he's turned like one business into merely a platform for being able to
Right.
take over the
right.
world
That's
is
right.
pretty phenomenal. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. What about your favorite book?
I think I'm going to stick to the team here. The Lean Startup is probably one of the most interesting books.
I like
I
it. I
read.
struggle with it, mate. I struggle with it because they don't focus on brand and they don't focus on milestone.
I
And man,
know, but you can't get
gotta-
everything from one book,
I
right?
know,
That'd be too easy.
but come on. I mean, it's cool. Like I like him. I like what he did. There's some cool stuff in the book, but branding's everything. It's like it's the core.
I agree. You don't have to accept everything. My
Yeah.
biggest, again, what I took out of the book is really the focus on operations and understanding the customer and building your ideas
that's
and
cool.
business from that perspective. So I think that's a
A
really,
one-on-one
really strong part.
Japanese, and they knew
That's right.
what they were doing. Okay,
Yeah.
final thing. What do you see coming? What do you see coming both as things as you really like investing in and you think you might invest in over the next couple of years, but just as importantly, where you see the world going?
Sure. So what I would like to focus is really find some fairly straightforward ideas that could grow and potentially reinvent themselves as they grow. What I think is gonna happen is anything AI, process automation, optimization. As the economy of the world is changing, more people are stepping into services like Uber and all kinds of different things. So any type of automation that's gonna help businesses grow on those platforms, take advantage of those platforms is super interesting.
Yeah, no question.
yeah.
What are you most excited about?
In software,
In everything.
in everything,
Right now.
That's a really good.
Don't normally
question.
ask this, but I want to know from you.
Summer. Summer's here finally. We have
It's so damn hot. It's like an Irish guy and a Polish guy going,
Yeah.
damn, it's hot.
I was excited about the World Cup final on Saturday, but that happened already.
Yeah, the French did good.
Yeah.
But no, I think we're in, for me, I think we're in the most exciting place in the world right now for early stage startup. I really
Agree.
do. Not
I
San
agree.
Francisco, like not Israel, not New York, not Boston. I think right here for gritty cage fighter type determination, we're
Yeah.
in ground zero of everything that's going on.
That's definitely happening.
And we're here, baby.
I love to see it. I mean, it's expanding. More and more is coming this way. Investors finally figure out why do they live in this horrible weather in San Francisco. Now it's better here.
It's the truth.
So, yeah. And there are always drinks at the bungalow, right?
And that's where we'll
Yeah.
be. Hey, look, thank you so much for joining us. We've only had brief interaction so far, but it's been a hell of a lot of fun. We're going to do a bunch more. I appreciate all the support you've been giving startups. I appreciate the fact you built it through yourself. Anything you ever need at the dojo, you got it here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for
Hey, and for
inviting me.
anybody contacting you just through LinkedIn?
Sure. Just shoot up. I'm there.
Okay, beautiful. Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for joining us. If you know any other entrepreneur equally ambitious as you, then share this podcast by paying it forward to other entrepreneurs who are building your own army. Now, as always, our website, expertdojo.com, is packed with information to help you grow your business, find investment, and train for victory. We also walk our talk and invest in startups every year in our accelerator here in Silicon Beach. You can always reach out to me at brian@expertdojo.com, and I look forward to being back here again at our regular time next Tuesday, 10 a.m. with another of the world's top investors, helping you win the war against startup failure.